Bloody Rootz Podkast, episode 27. We have a great guest here, Mr. Rick De La Fuente. Welcome.
Thank you for
Welcome,
having
Rick.
me here, gentlemen.
No problem.
I'm pretty pumped, man. You guys are two cool cats. On the way up here, I was like, I didn't know what to expect or whatever, but I'm just excited, dude. Like to, just share with you guys, man.
No, and we already kind of debriefed a little bit and had a little bit of conversation before, and no, you're a very down to earth guy. So
Thank you.
It's gonna be cool to get to know you.
Yeah, I've been pretty amazed the last 15 minutes you were talking. So I'm interested. I'm pumped up, inspired. I'm like,
Wow.
damn.
I wish everybody felt like that. You know?
I was like, hey, Adam, what the hell, dude? Like,
Why you been hiding?
yeah, dude.
If you don't mind, can you bring the mic closer to your mouth? Yeah, perfect.
So I also wanted to just throw it out there. He will be starting his podcast also. So
Yeah, I'm already on the fifth episode.
Fifth episode.
Yeah, we already
okay.
launched. It's called Chicago Real.
Chicago Real, okay.
Yeah, and it's basically just interviewing like entrepreneurship, people that are business people and just regular people. They have a story. Like I mentioned, one of my good friends, he is a business owner, but he was an ex street gangbanger, and he was hardcore, like hardcore gangbanger.
Yep.
And he just turned his life around. Now he's, he opened up a church several years ago. They just bought a building, and he was just sharing his story on it too. And people like that just kind of like took a negative thing in their lives and turned it around, And I think life is good. The opportunity is for everyone, as long as you want to take it. It's out there.
So I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So in relations to, him being a hardcore gangbanger.
Was a hardcore
Or
gambler.
was a hardcore gangbanger, sorry. In relation to him, with his history and all, with all that's going on in El Salvador, what do you think about that? Because, they're just getting every gangbanger and throwing them in jail. I don't know what's going to happen with them. But, I don't know if they're automatically deeming them as,
Lost cause.
Yeah, lost cause. But obviously in this case and plenty of others, there's been plenty of gangbangers that, retired that lifestyle. And then they end up turning their life around and being some of the best out there in society.
Well, I just think in regards to this guy's case, what's happening in El Salvador, I think they're just cleaning up shop. It was just out of hand with the gangs, right? And so, like, I don't understand the judicial system in El Salvador, but what are you gonna do? You're out there killing and creating havoc and murder and all that. You throw your ass in jail and suffer for a little bit.
For sure.
Taking your freedom does two things. Number one is it makes you think a lot, right? And then number two is it makes you appreciate what you had and what you threw away, And the old saying goes like, you don't know what you have until you lose it. And I think that's what, I've never been in prison. I've been, locked up for 24 hours here and there, when I was younger, but never served time or anything. But I think that's what prison does if you allow it. Some people become bitter. I know several men who served in prison, they got their master's degree, didn't waste any time. So it's really goes back to like, what you want out of life. And you got to, being in whatever cell the dimensions are, but, it gives you a lot of time to think, And so what's happening in El Salvador, I'd rather have those guys in prison than out there raping and stealing and shooting and all that for sure. And so that's another problem to resolve, right? How are you gonna like rehabilitate them and all that when they come
sifting
out?
through the ones that are, I guess, savable and able to redeem themselves.
We're all savable. That's
Yeah.
for sure. But the thing is, the choices we make. Do you want that? And so, like my buddy, he was on my podcast. He didn't want that life anymore, and and you should have him here. I'm gonna tell him to be here.
Yeah, man, let him know.
I'm gonna tell him to come out and share his story, dude.
For sure.
And now he turned it around, and it's been years. but he owns a business, and for many years, and he opened up a church like 4 or 5 years ago. He felt that calling in his life, and now he does and rescues people too, and he lives well. He's happy. He every day he wakes up with purpose, and he what excites him, might not excite you. Your purpose and your duty in life is different.
Yeah.
And so so that I think there's salvation for everyone as long as you want it. What kind of lifestyle you want to live. And like my background, and I got into some bad things when I was younger, but I chose. I live in your typical American middle class home, 2 working parents, and so I grew up with a stepdad, and so
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cicero. But it
wow.
wasn't the Cicero you see today. It was mostly predominant Italians, and then in the mid '80s, the gang started moving in, and that sort of thing.
Is that the time you were in your teens in the 80s
Yes.
at that time in Cicero?
I was a teenager. It was the birth of house music. There we go.
House music.
Yeah. And so, so I got into, partying, doing drugs. Cocaine was big. I was a big cocaine user, and then I started selling it.
Is it just as big now, or you think
No, it was huge.
it was bigger in the 80s?
Huge. Like I would,
And when-
I would sneak into these clubs with a fake ID. Back then, it was easy to get a fake ID, And there was this club called PS Chicago. It's right there on Rush Street and Division, like a half a block off of Division, Now they call that, it's kind of high end over there. And it was still kind of like all the clubs were there.
Yeah.
And it was called PS Chicago. And it was like a 23 or 24 and over club. And I would just go there and bust out, they had like these cocktail tables there.
Sorry about
So,
that.
Go ahead. Are we pausing?
Just I gotta turn this off.
Oh.
There's always something, some
Pause
little
for a commercial.
yeah.
A little intermission set
Yeah.
too. Sorry, man.
All right. No worries. So let me pick it up. So there was this club called PS Chicago, and so this has cocaine influence in that area, and so I used to just go there, and with some of my buddies that could get in, and I was like 16, 17 years old. Okay, and so I used to have. They had these cocktail tables. I used to go in, and if you start going there, freaking, they kind of know you, recognize you, they won't ID you, and so I look older. I always appeared older when I was a teenager. I had facial hair, and so I would get in, and we just start drinking, partying a little bit, and then we waited till like 10:30, 11 o'clock when it really starts getting good, and I would like bust out, like some lines and just in front of everyone there
On the counter.
on the cocktail table.
Damn.
And then women would come and like, hey, hang out with you, and people would come. You would become the center of thing, and things happen there. Without getting too explicit.
You were the man.
And so I wouldn't say that, but that was the era, right? And it's a shame on both sides, right? Because the ladies, right? Like back then, I was young, I was a teenager, but there was somebody in their 20s, a young person, allowing themselves do whatever for a line or 2 lines or just a party with you, And so we as boys, like, oh yeah, I was with this one, that one, but at the end of the day, the root of it is the lack of, right? Why are they doing that? Why
Something's missing in their life.
Exactly, right? And even in my own life, why would I need that? Why would I need a woman to make me feel like a man? And so, but we were young, and we did that, and it was just very crazy, man. I grew up quick.
And what got you into cocaine? Like, what was your introduction into cocaine?
Kids, don't do this at home. But it wasn't, when I was a break dancer when I was at grade school, and I was a DJ. I got into
hip-hop.
that. It wasn't hip hop at the time, but it was just, kind of like that. And so you just begin drinking at a young age, partying, and they would call this stuff daytimers. We would ditch school and we would go like somebody, parents are working.
My
we
parents
still
did
call
that.
it
Yeah.
that.
They used to call it that,
Yeah.
daytimers. And I say, hey, we were having a daytimer, and
Yep.
you ditch school and you go party. And then, I lost my virginity at a very young age. And so, and then you just got into that lifestyle, and it becomes normal. And then alcohol became, smoking weed. And it's not the freaking weed of today. It was weed, the real stuff. You take a little bit. Now they have like oils and vapes and all that shit. It's like,
It's all
I
scientifically
did
evolved.
I tried an edible like 7 years ago, dude. They almost ruined my life. I thought I was gonna die, dude. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, no, it's
but it
not
was weed,
really-
right? So we partied,
Yeah.
and it was just weed. And then one time I was partying. I had an older brother, and I was partying with one of his cop friends. He was a Maywood cop, some Italian dude. And he's the first guy I snorted a line. I was in like 7th and 8th grade. He had a motorcycle. And so we would go, and I would hop on his motorcycle, and, we would go like to the Italian Fest, and we would go to like these festivals. And then one time I was at his house, at his apartment. He had a grown-ups there. And I thought I was cool because I was around grown-ups, And they were snorting, and I that was it. That was my introduction to it. And so I snorted, and then I liked it. I started partying, and I was hung around with older people and had relationships with older women, and I just kind of grew up quick in that sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like I defile my body. Now that I'm a grown ass man, I understand that stuff now. And so I just lost my innocence without even knowing it, and I thought I was cool.
Yeah.
Do you wish you could take that back sometimes? Like,
Yeah, I would do it all over again, for sure. I know we all go through that stage. You got to be cool and as a young kid and all that. But the thing is, it's just a lack of, like you're missing. Why do you need to impress someone? All you need is to impress yourself. So, and I just have that mentality every day. I'm trying to improve myself. My race is against me. How can I become the better version of Rick from yesterday?
Yep.
And so, and then it ain't easy. So when we die and go to heaven, it's like you meet your twin, like it's a shame, that when we get to heaven, it's like, damn, and God presents you like, you could have been this dude, but you became this guy, and so that's what I'm after in life.
Yeah.
I just want to be better. I don't stress out about it. I take one day at a time, but I always try to improve myself, feel good things in my mind, feel knowledge. I'm very careful on what I put in my head, what I watch. At the end of the day, I just want to grow and learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
And share, like with you two gentlemen, my story. Everyone has a story, right? And so yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I got into, partying. I was like the partier in school.
And this was like around high school time.
It was high school. By the time I was high school, dude, I was like a big cocaine user. And then we used to make speedballs. We mix heroin and cocaine together.
Holy crap!
Jesus
And
Christ.
snorted. I never shot. Never. My veins are clean to this day.
What's
Never.
the difference between shooting and snorting it?
Well, I don't know because I never shot heroin. And thank God.
But like, do you know, like, if
I was always afraid of it, but
Yeah.
I always liked to party. So it was like
Well, it's instant,
heroin.
dude.
It's like a brown.
In your
Yeah,
bloodstream.
there goes. Yeah. So heroin is more of a downer, and cocaine is, gets you up, gets you in a good mood. And so we used to make speedballs, and we mix. It's brown and white powder, But when I used to mix, I used to put more white, light beige, just put a little bit of heroin, and then we laced it on weed. We put it on weed, roll it up, and smoke it. And then back then it was free basing. They used to call that when you cook the cocaine in a spoon.
Isn't that how Richard Pryor lit himself on fire? I think freebasing.
Yeah, he was freebasing, but now it's crack. That's where crack cocaine comes from.
Yeah.
Because now they sell rocks, of it. So what you do is you put cocaine in the water. You with a needle, you just put a little water. I've never done that, but I've seen guys do it. And you just cook on the stove, and then it turns into a rock. Then you put it in a pipe and smoke it. But we didn't do that. You know, I didn't, or the people I hung out with. But yeah, I got into that, and you know, just walking home from school, you know, like you just put it on there, roll up. By the time you get home, you're like, you know, you need to lay down. You know.
And how were the parents at that time? You know, like.
Well, my mom, obviously, I'm immigrant. You know, Hispanic, worked. She, you know, I came home drunk a few times. She beat my ass. You know?
For sure.
Yeah, she was like
La chancla.
Oh shit! I wish it was a chancla. Dude. Like, she got me with.
With anything she found.
Nah,
right?
you remember those old school cordless phones with the big ass antenna?
Yeah.
That, dude, like, damn. You know, she was talking to my grandma one time. I just came out of my mind, dude, like messed up. And she's like, "Let me smell you," you know. And she got, "Hold on, mom," and boom, boom. And so. Yeah, I made my mom suffer a little bit, you know. I left my house for like a week and a half when I was in high school. I just wanted to party. I got into that zone. And through the grace of God, you know, I graduated high school, you know, and didn't have to, I wasn't held back. I just persuaded teachers, you know, I was good at that. I was good at, sitting by the smart, ugly girl, you know, no offense, ladies, you know, all girls are beautiful, but talking about a long time ago, and you just copy, and they would like, I would pretend I would like them and that kind of thing, and that's how I got by, man.
Very strategic.
Yeah, it's funny now, but you know, if that was my daughter, you know, I would feel bad. Now that I'm a dad, and I do have a daughter, she's 23, you know, and we're very proud of her, and I raised my kids. In a God-fearing home. And so, I try to raise them right. I pulled away. I became a dad when I was 20. And so I just shut everything by the time and I still went out. I still dabble in that stuff, not with drugs, but I still went out, you know, till like I was like 22, 23 here and there. But, you know, once I got married, I 100%, you know, started going to church. I wanted to raise my kids in a good environment. That was important to me. I didn't want my kids to grow up without a dad or a weekend dad, you know, none of that.
And were you always, was your family always in the church, like your parents
well,
as a kid?
You know, I grew up in a Christian church, but I really wasn't. I would just go as a little kid, you know. Some people go to Catholic church, and we did that too, but not really. You know, I know my older brother, he really got into it. He's a pastor now. And yeah, that influenced me, you know, but it didn't stop me to doing what I was doing when I was a teenager, you know.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed it. I liked doing that, and but I always had that fear of God in me, you know, like I didn't want to die. You know, I know some of my friends overdose, you know, but I thank God I didn't. I remember coming home one night after partying, or God knows being with who, you know, and at night, and I prayed 2 prayers I wouldn't catch any disease or, you know, die, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember laying in my waterbed. You know what waterbeds are? That was the thing back then. Right? Don't make fun of me.
You had one, yeah?
Yeah, I had a waterbed.
That was
that
OG memory foam?
No, it was a waterbed, man, like a thing with water in it. I was just floating there, and then my heart, because I was so wired of cocaine, I felt my chest was like bumping, you know. And then 2 things, when the cocaine drug starts wearing down, it almost gets you depressed a little bit.
They say, yeah, that the morning after is like,
you just feel down, like depressed,
really?
sad, dude. And I was like,
that's what
it bumps
brings you
out. That's
to addiction,
why, yeah.
I think.
So, so it was so bad with that stuff that like the cartilage on this nose, like was wearing out. And I would sneeze and blood would come out. I didn't have cartilage because I was snorting all the time. Then I would go on this nostril, you know.
so you burned through. So it's like,
dude,
yeah.
it burned, dude. It used to burn a lot, you know. And so, and then I would forget to eat sometimes. I was skinny. Back then, I was always skinny. And I would just forget to eat sometimes. You know, that I eat, you know. And my mom was one of those moms that cooked every day Peruvian food, and Peruvian food is very rich, very,
It's carb heavy.
yeah, dude, rice, potatoes, stews, you know, all that.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's good food.
Yeah.
So yeah, growing up, I was into that. Sometimes I would just out of nowhere, dude. Like I would be in school, put my book up, and do a line.
Holy
Damn.
crap,
Yeah.
man!
And then one day, when I was a senior, um, I got arrested. I was so messed up that I had to go to the bathroom, and me and a couple guys, and then the cop followed me. Everybody knew I was selling cocaine in school. Now, at that time, it wasn't as prevalent, Um, so it wasn't as prevalent as today. It's like, oh, he got caught with drugs. It was like a big deal, and so they arrested me. Broke my mom's heart. It's like your son got caught with. I was like marijuana. I knew he was smoking marijuana. It wasn't marijuana. It was cocaine. What the hell, and blah blah blah. Oh, they got me an attorney. Thank God, and they got me back in school. They had a fight to put me back in school, and I did. I graduated, and so. So yeah, man, it wasn't until like I started going to church, really, man, that I really turned my life around.
So after high school, what happened? Like
I was
what?
partying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have like odds and then jobs and just party, man.
You mentioned house music earlier.
Yeah.
I've listened to house music. I mean, when I was like 12 years old, I would go to the house parties with my older cousins. Now, I never really understood 100% house music. Can you explain more about house music, what it is? Because I feel like that's like a Chicago thing.
It is a Chicago thing. So when house music was born, it was just right after like the disco era. The electric music started coming about, and then really like these local artists in Chicago. I don't know like the exact history, but I just remember because I grew up with it. That's what they call it because it was just so it was homebred. So hence, from house parties, they call that house music because it wasn't on the radio. It was music you play in the house.
Yeah.
And so
Hell
hence
yeah.
the name. And so now house music is so many varieties of it, like in Europe and, like it's huge. But, now there's a genre. It's not, okay, this type of house music, and it's like so many varieties of it. But old deep house, it was to Chicago. And so, and then the DJs came out of that, and then they came into like we used to call that freestyle music, but freestyle music it's different what they call it now.
Yeah.
So that's what it was, 80s, and then the DJs, came about. I used to DJ too back in the day where it was like records. I used to buy 2 records of each song, and then you mix them.
Holy crap! Yeah.
And so now it's all digitized, and it's like it's insane how it is. And it's easier.
Yeah, they made it way easier. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot easier. And so that's how, house music. So I grew up in that era. So it wasn't like today, like people on the other side of the world because of the internet. It wasn't. It was just here. And then New York had their own style. Then New York came, and then it was a big thing between New York and Chicago. And they used to have like these big events like Battle of the DJs, New York and Chicago. And so it was crazy.
I wish I grew up in those times.
And I like seeing videos like of even in the hip hop days too, where like people in I don't know what areas in New York, but the whole neighborhood's there, and the guys DJing, or there's some guys rapping.
Yeah,
like
that was
it was like a neighborhood thing.
That's
It's
how it
such
was.
an amazing.
Yeah, man. When I was
That's
growing up, I
culture,
used to
man.
go to it was 18th Street. Now they call it Pilsen, But it was 18th Street. They used to have festivals there and all throughout Chicago. So, I used to ditch school, and my friends would go there, and we used to get like it's silly, and we used to have like this 10 by 10 piece of linoleum. We roll that up, and we just go on the train, dude.
To go breakdance.
Yeah, breakdance, and then go to these festivals. You roll it out, and then you have battles with other dudes, and doing one of my buddies had a radio. They call it a boombox,
Yeah.
right? It was that era, dude.
It's funny. My dad and his brothers, the older ones, they had that phase too. The breakdancing.
Oh, they were
Yeah.
breakdancing too?
They did breakdancing.
Man, dude,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
thought that was such an amazing culture, the
Yeah.
breakdancing. Even guys, I think like in the 90s, early 2000s, breakdancing was still
Yeah.
very relevant.
It's
in
still
Chicago.
people still do it, and I appreciate the art. I forgot where I was at. Where the heck I was at? Oh, I was in South America 3 weeks ago, and I was just walking around, and there were like some street guys, and and then they were one of them was breakdancing. It was pretty cool. I still appreciate the art. You know,
sure.
I
Oh,
get
yeah.
it. I'm still into it. You know, I'm kind of young at heart. You know, and so yeah, I still go to festivals. I go to like Chicago House Music Festival in Pilsen and Harrison Park. I suggest you guys go. I know the guy that runs the festival there. He works out at my gym, and so I kind of connected with him. He's a good guy, old school guy too. But it's big, dude. Like it's really cool because it's interesting because you have people from my era, from your era, just enjoying it and old school music, you know. And
I love seeing like I guess the older heads like
Oh yeah.
really getting down to the music too, like especially with house music. I noticed it. My dad had a bar for a few years, and anytime they had like the DJ events, and
he had a bar. Where?
Yeah, it was called Layover. It was on over in
Central, right?
like near Stickney, on
right.
Central, literally right by I-55.
Oh,
Right
you're
off
the
of
one that
I-55.
okay. Adam told me that.
Yeah.
You had a
Adam went there. I
by
think
Midway,
once
right?
Or twice, yeah.
Was it Midway?
Yep.
But is it in Stickney or in Chicago?
It's unincorporated Stickney.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
used to be a fireman in Stickney.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh damn, how was
Yeah.
that, man?
It was awesome. I loved it. It was the best job I had.
The fireman
Yeah,
job?
yeah. But I love being an entrepreneur better. But yeah, I loved it. It was good camaraderie. I learned. You know, I did a lot of things in my life. You know, but a fireman, I say, is one of those things that are endearing to me. You know, because it taught me. Number one is it taught me that. That I could accomplish something. When I got into fire department, I was so proud. I felt like very accomplished. It was one of the first times I like, you know, because
So it was
like I
very
mentioned to you in
rewarding,
school,
yeah.
I wasn't very studious not because I wasn't smart, because I didn't apply myself. So I didn't never learn at that time how to apply myself, how to study, how to like, you know, focus 100%. You know, so when I went to paramedic school, it was hard. It was very hard for me. And plus, I was working. I was a full-time dad, so it was hard. But I did it, you know, and I got hired. I did it for like 5 years, and it was good, you know. Like I seen a lot of tragedy, but a lot of times, you know, I seen a lot of good things come out. I learned how to save people's lives, you know. Like you learn a lot.
Do you feel like you were in the danger a lot?
You know, I didn't fight like I would love to tell you, man, we were in this, you know, level 3 structural fire, the roof collapsed.
Yeah, I'm
and,
thinking of Spider-Man right now.
you know, I had maybe a dozen fires, maybe 12 fires.
Okay.
You know, maybe once every 6 months that were really like a fire. You know, we did like little things, garage fires. But we always assisted like Cicero, Chicago, Oak Park. One time we went to River Forest. For a big fire to help them, you know.
But it's
a lot of car accidents. Yeah.
It's super honorable that, like, literally the house is engulfed in flames. It's like, oh, there's a family of 4 in there. We need to get them out. You guys need to figure out a way in there.
So the thing
That's
is,
called bravery, right there.
Yeah.
The thing
100%.
is, with that is, if the whole house is torching, you know, you don't really go in there.
Oh, okay.
You know, they won't let you. You know, it's got to be, you know, like. If the whole house is already in flames, they're gone. Because you don't really burn to death. You die from the smoke inhalation. Yeah, you suffocate. Really.
Yeah, that's so
it's a
sad.
horrible. Yeah, it's a horrible way to die, dude. And so just, you know, shout out to the Chicago Fire Department. They lost 2 of their guys, you know, last week. So it's sad, you know, because they really give up their lives to help others, you know. So, you know, they've been there a long time. You know, they weren't newbies. But it could happen, you know. It happens. So yeah, I did that, and but yeah, it was very rewarding, man. It was really good.
You went to South America. You said 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was in.
So where in South America
Peru.
did you go? Peru.
Yeah.
How is it out there, man?
Dude, it's
I would
badass.
want to go see.
Yeah, I
it,
love
bro.
South America, dude. You know, I was born there, and on my father's side, I have family in Spain too. I go to Spain, and so I'm going to be heading there for my birthday in June. But yeah, it's cool, man. Like Peru is not because I was born there, but it's very diverse. A lot of like the food is very influential. like from different cultures. You know, you have like obviously then you have like the original Inca, the potatoes and all that, and the food. But then you have influence from Italy, French, Japanese, Chinese. It's like a big melting pot. So that's why when you eat Peruvian food, it's like a stir fry, you know, a noodle stir fry. It's like, what the hell is this? It's like, and it's influence, you know.
Oh, I love it, man. I've had it a few times and it's delicious. You
Yeah.
have rice, you have French fries,
Yeah,
egg.
lomo saltado, dude. Yeah.
Oh man,
And they
Yeah.
throw an egg on top. Yeah.
I need to find a good Peruvian place. Well, I need to find a Peruvian place, period, and just I want to just feast.
Yeah, but yeah, I
You enjoy
encourage
it.
you guys to go.
I think
man.
Adam said you got like a brother that has a restaurant, right? Or
A
an
cousin.
uncle?
Yeah, uncle and a cousin. They out of Chicago. Yeah.
Are they still
Yeah.
there?
Since 1980, man.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Reels. And
Reels.
you go to the one in Addison. That's the one my cousin runs. He runs a tighter ship, you know, and the food is really good. You
In
know?
Addison.
Yeah, Addison.
Go
Illinois.
check it out, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
Reels, man. It's a plug for Reels.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And but yeah, man. So going back to what I was saying, so I became a dad right away when I was in my 20s, and I just gave everything up. Yeah, after that, you know. And so a lot of people glorify, oh my God, you did this and you did that. And-
We're gonna go on an intermission real quick.
Sorry.
Salud.
Salud. Well, thank you for the concoction here. A little
No
sip.
problem.
Cheers. Now look at that guy.
Mr. Healthy over here.
Ooh. that water tastes good. It's refreshing. Okay.
So where we last left off, you were talking about, I guess, when being a young father.
Yeah. So, you know, I married my high school sweetheart. And so, yeah, I had my oldest son, he's 31. And so, and yeah, I just kind of like, that helped me just kind of back off into the mess that I was in. And just, you know, I took on that father role seriously. And so I never wanted my son, his name's Nick, he's my oldest son. I never wanted him to grow up in a broken home. That was very important. Only because I grew up with a stepdad. My dad died when I was like 6 months old, and so I never met him. And so, or met him, but never have any recollection of him. And so, I wanted my kids to grow up in a home with a mom and dad, in a normal home. So by the time I was like 22, 23, I was already burnt out from that lifestyle, partying and all that. And I just gradually slowed down, and just focus on my family, man. And I had then my son Adam was born, and I was 23, and so I bought a house, you know, and lived worked, and yeah, it was very important for me to just kind of be that dad, you know. And so and to this day, I'm proud. You know, I'm proud. To be a dad, and proud of the way I raised my children. I started going to church. That helped me too, you know, and I took it seriously. And you know, that was important that, you know, my kids grew up that I provided an environment. Even my parents, they provided a good environment. I grew up your typical middle class, never lacked anything. You know, we went on that 1 week vacation a year and all that, but, you know, it was that excitement that I was looking for, to be part of something, you know. And I think that's how, you know, kids, you know, just get lost because they want to be a part of something, whether they join gangs or they do whatever, right? And so I just wanted that environment for my kids, man. And as I got older, I got more involved in church and just kind of my spiritual life in line, and it was good, man. It wasn't, you know, some people might think it's religion and all that, but it's Christianity is a religion, right? But it was more after the spiritual aspect I was searching, and you begin to hear God, man. Like it's it's something that we all have a soul. We all carry something inside of us that we could communicate with our creator, you know? And it's not like verbally prayer is done verbally, but also in your mind. And so that kind of guided me, raising my kids. And I became a fireman. I told you that when I was a fireman, that was like a big breakthrough for me. Like, wow, I accomplished something. I'm not dumb. In high school, or in school, I didn't have the model teachers, which I did, but, they didn't, since I was a clown in school, say, or I didn't take it serious. Well, the teachers didn't take me serious, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I kind of grew up in back of my head that I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't able to do anything. So that was like the first thing in my adult career that I went for something, and it was. It cost me, dude, to get my to get hired in the fire department. But first, I had to go to school and get my paramedic license and all that.
And a family.
And it had a family and everything, but it cost me sweat and tears, And it was a time where you cannot get under a 92%, or it was high, the percentage on your test. And it was this one time that I got an 89, dude. I was like one question, and it was like make it or break it kind of test. And I remember, dude, it was like 90% into the program. And it was like, there was like 4 of us, dude. And it was like, I'm sorry, but you guys could try again. And I said, I'm not going through another 9 months of this stuff, And I pleaded with the teacher. I said, hey, listen, the answer that I answered was the correct one, just because the other one was better. And I just kind of, and she looked at me and she's like, I tell you what, I'm going to let you sit in for the final and see how you do. Because I was great at the practicals. I was able to intubate people. I was in the ER when I was there. I was, my hands-on was like on point, And so, and again, that resulted of not me learning how to study in school, because I didn't study's an art too, to learn to, it's an art to study, right?
For sure.
And so I never really learned that in school. I was always a goof off. And so, and so I did, and I studied, and I really busted my ass, and I made it. And then 6 months later, I was hired in the fire department. And like I mentioned to you guys, I did that for several years. And then I was in my late 20s, man, and I just felt like I needed something else in my life. I just felt something in me was missing, So to make a long story short, I went off to Bible school. I was 30. I moved to Ohio, and I visited this one church. They had like a little Bible school there, and I moved my family. I uprooted my family. I had a house, and I rented it, and we went over there. At that time, I already had 3 kids, and it was tough, I say in my adult career, that was like another phase of my life that it kind of broke me a little bit and made me the man that I am today, because you really had to trust God, and trust in the gifts that God has given you to overcome. I went out there, dude. I blew out my savings. I was in school full time again. My learning skills wasn't what it is today, and I had to really study. And I remember my first day, and there, and it was a teacher. She was very hardcore, black lady, very militant, served in the army. She turned out to be one of my favorite teachers, but she was an Old Testament teacher. And she walked in there, man, no nonsense, man. And here I am, 30 years old, with a bunch of kids, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, And I'm like, she walked in, he's like, all right, 1, 2, 39, I want you to write the books of the Old Testament. Dude, I only knew Genesis. I just put Genesis, dude. And I felt like crying. I was like 31 years old. And I was like, what in the freak I just did? I uprooted my family. I'm sitting here. What am I doing here? Maybe I got emotional or to come here. And nah, dude. And then and that was like, that season in my life. I was there for 3 years. It just broke me, But it broke me in a way where there was like stuff on me. I still had prejudice in me, stuff from my past that I had on me, like I carried
And
just
it's
broke off of me, man.
and it's crazy because it was like you were down to square one,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you were like
Yeah.
just
I felt like I went backwards, like,
Yeah.
man, I had a nice Victorian house in Berwyn. It was totally rehabbed, and I was living a good life, and yeah, and so I just learned, dude. I learned a lot about God. I learned about like encounters with God, like the spiritual aspect of it. I had some like crazy encounters, dude, like spiritual encounters and visions and
Would you mind sharing some of those?
yeah,
or-
dude. I for sure, dude. Like I would like, and I'll tell you, dude. Like, and I'll in the next phase. But I just learned, dude. I learned how to pray. I learned how to hear from God. Like God would tell me things about people, and like very like the as we're sipping on some good tequila here. um, I've learned, dude, how to hear the voice of God. Like, God is real, Religion is bullshit, but God is real,
Yep.
And one of my favorite books in the Bible is Proverbs, the book of wisdom, dude. And who wrote Proverbs was Solomon. Solomon, he was like the richest guy. It even talked about like no man will be richer than him. And he like pretty much owned Wall Street. He pretty much he had control of the rivers, the canals, how all these other countries, they go through him. He controlled everything, and it says that people like kings and leaders from other countries came to him to seek his wisdom. And the reason he had wisdom, because when he was young, he prayed to God, and he didn't ask for riches or anything from God. He just said, I just want your wisdom. And for that, God gave him, and they said, no man is going to be as wise as you. And there's a bunch of stories. I encourage you guys to read it, man. It's really cool. There's 31 chapters, so I made it a point. Each day of the month I would read one. I haven't read it in a while, but I would every day. Like today's, April 15 or April 14, and I would read Proverbs 14. And it's just wisdom, dude. Like, it makes you wise, dude.
I got a question for you as far as that. Do you think that there's still Solomons today? Like,
Hell yeah,
is that
dude.
a recurring thing or is it something that happened in ancient times, in the Bible?
So
Does that still happen today? The
Heck
connection
yeah.
with God?
Yeah, dude. And I'm gonna get to it, dude. It's gonna blow your freaking mind, dude.
Yeah, gotta go.
I'm smoking some yak or something, dude, but no way, dude.
Some DMT.
Yeah, something, dude. And so no, dude. So I just fell in love with that book, right? And so and then you just begin, dude, like to hear just God's voice, dude. So one time we would have chapel, like a service, twice a week. Dude, I seen like you experience, dude, when the Spirit of God enters the room, dude, you sense it, right? And so, and that's where I learned. I started like operating in the prophetic. Do you understand what that is, dude? Like the prophetic, like I became prophetic. Like if you were dealing with something and God would put it, and I would begin to feel your burden. Like if you were like in trouble or
I've
like
seen
you
that
were
before.
sad, and I was like, man, dude, I feel bad. Like you ever felt that?
Yeah.
Like, man, something like gravitates you to something, or if you walk in the room, it's like, hey, something ain't right here. That's how we call it our intuition. We call it whatever people call it, your spidey sense, right? But that's a spirit, dude. You have a spirit inside you, and that's how we communicate with God. It's unfortunate nowadays we are so distracted, because back then in ancient times there was no internet, there was no phone. You counted on your senses a lot more. We've become so desensitized, dude. We really have as a society. But if you stick a human being in a forest or somewhere and let him fend for himself, it's going to take him a while, but he's going to get all his senses back. He's going to hear things he wasn't hearing before, right? And anyway, so jumping back to that, and I've seen, like I experienced visions, dude. Like I remember one time my mother-in-law was going through something, and I literally saw her in my mind, dude. And I came home and I called her, and it was exactly it. Stuff like that like became happening. God would put people on my heart, that sort of thing. And so I left that place, came back and started working again. And then this is where it gets crazy, dude. Like a buddy of mine invited me to go to Honduras through my nephew. He's like, hey, this guy's building an orphanage in Honduras. I said, oh, dude, I always wanted to be involved with that kind of stuff. You know, I have a heart for kids, you know. And so he did, dude. And I went. My two boys came. You know, Adam came, and a couple friends of ours, a group of 10, dude. Dude, it broke my heart. I never seen poverty like that. Kids eating out of the garbage dump. It was poverty, dude. It was like hell on earth, dude. It like really like impacted my heart, you know. And so I started doing that every year. I couldn't just leave and not do anything about it, you know. And so
is that where your missionary work started? Like
Mhm.
that was like the beginning.
Yeah, dude, it broke my heart, dude. Like, you ever had your heart broken, dude? Like, I wouldn't say a girl broke my heart, you know. Unfortunately, but I mean, fortunately, I guess, you know. But I was in the other spectrum, but yeah, I had my heart broken, dude. Like, I couldn't even talk about it without weeping, dude. It was bad. It like affected me that bad, you know. And so, there were days I couldn't sleep thinking about it. So you know that thing that, man, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. And so all my hustleness, all my gifts, my leadership, everything, dude, like just came out for that. So I started like going there every year, and then my group got bigger and bigger. There were times that we brought over 40 people, dude. And we did all kinds of stuff, dude. Like we bought land, you know, through this organization that was there, goats, and built buildings. We did outreaches. We went in the mountains and fed people. And it's interesting because and then they would ask me, right? We would like network with local churches, and they would ask me, hey, you want to come and speak? And all of a sudden they think you're a pastor because you're doing that work, right? And I was like, I don't want to do that. But in my heart, I knew I had to, you know, like, damn. So and then I had to get a little holy, and I was like, oh, shit, dude. Like, I got to study and get a sermon going and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I did, dude. And the moment I stepped out doing that, dude, like, freaking the power of God would show up, dude. And, like, it would just show up, you know? And so I would start speaking, and I knew it. And I knew it, like, every time I would open my Bible, and I was like, okay, I got to come up with some message or something. And it was always about the Holy Spirit and the power of God and healing and just miracles. And it always diverted to that, you know? And then back in my head, because of my background, you know, like having and not like confidence, lack of confidence. I was like, what happens if no one? There's just you know. You're just getting emotional about this. So I would shake those thoughts off and then immerse myself in the Word of God, reminding me like what the God I met in Bible college and the God that spoke to me all those times. I had to remind myself of that. And dude, I went, dude, and it was like a freaking explosion, dude. Like I started speaking, and all of a sudden, like, you know, I would call people out and say, you know what, God has reminded you today that blah, 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 and people start weeping.
Sorry, I got a bad cough
Right.
right now.
Another commercial, folks. So you guys edit this?
Yeah.
God. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got this little tickle. Maybe I should have
You hear some water, bro.
Nice.
Yeah, have some water. Right here, man. You're good.
So you're having a cold drink. You were drinking coffee earlier, right?
I should have not done that.
Huh?
Maybe,
That was
yeah.
very dumb.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
I'm
You
sorry.
just have a weak throat. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
That's you know, all that going on in Honduras though. Like, do you think that God? How do you feel about all that situation going on in Honduras? Like, is God there too with them, despite them
dude.
going through that hell? You know what I mean?
Well, you know what, dude? We are not responsible, right? And I've been to many countries. I've been to like 17 countries, right? And so I used to think that too. I used to like, why are these people poor like that? And what the reason why they're poor and the reason why they live like that is because of corruption. The corruption, the people that run the country,
Yeah.
right? It's like, you know, when these shootings at the schools and stuff, and it's like, You know, it broke my heart when that little girl, 9-year-old girl or 7-year-old girl lost her life. It's like, damn, you know, how did that happen? Because of the corrupt person, right? They went in there with a gun and just lit everyone up, right? It's not the little girl's fault, you know. It's not that God does not exist, you know. And we live in a corrupt world, man, you know. And so, and that's the answer to that. At least that's according to the gospel of Rick, you know. That's because God is real, dude. Like, I experience it. And so in these meetings where I like preached, dude, I've seen people like twisted arms, you know, like a kid. One time we were praying for this kid, dude. He had like twisted legs and stuff before my fucking eyes, dude. Like, I'm not lying to you, dude. It like within like 10 minutes, ears, deaf ears open, and the presence of God, dude. Like, it's amazing, dude. Like, and I kept seeing that in my travels. I just kept seeing it, and the more intensity, you know, it's like I cannot. The way I describe it, it comes like if you start like speaking, and then you feel like the spirit of God moving, and it's like a horn, like, and then it gets more intense and more, and then you start like hearing more, and your words begin to pierce people's heart, you know, like, and it does, dude, and you know, there's just crazy stuff, dude. Like, I also experienced like the demonic too, like people possessed, and when I was in Haiti, voodoo areas, and I seen experience a petite Haitian woman whip around these burly freaking big Haitian guys, dude, like nothing, dude, like a sack of potatoes. It took like 15 guys or maybe less than that to hold her down, dude, and they had to pray for her and cast that demon out, dude.
So I got a question for that. Did you hear about what happened in Brazil?
No.
So they had a festival and they were worshiping Satan.
Okay.
So they literally, you know, redid the scene of Jesus, you know, walking and getting whipped.
I think I heard.
It was
something.
terrible. It was
Okay.
frightening, right? So what I'm wondering is, for all those old tribes that are still like, you know, around and they never really accepted Christianity, does that put them on the satanic category, or, you know, would that make them evil? You know, for example, like the Haitians, if they had their old tribal ways, you know, they have pagan traditions.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, you know, I'm not the judger of that. You know, I'm not God. You know, all I could say is that, you know, Jesus Christ, right? He led with love. He really did, dude. And so, there's a choice, right? We all have a choice. We talked about earlier making choices, right? And so if you don't want to accept Christ, you know, as your Lord or as your God, then that's your choice, right? And so does that make them evil? It depends. What's your definition of evil? Like, people think sacrificing a baby is not evil and shedding the blood for your belief system, right? People think abortion is not evil, right? And it's the same thing. Well, it's not, because it's not fully developed, according to who, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad my mom didn't abort me. I wasn't aborted. I love life, dude. It's not easy. Life's not easy, but man, at least I was able to experience watch a blue sky and smell the summer air. You know, life is great. So who am I to decide who's gonna live and who's not, right? And so, that person that went to shut up that school in their head is like, that's not evil. I'm just getting back at them. So it depends what evil means to you, right? So what evil means to me is that anything that you're hurting another human being, you know, or mocking someone's belief, you know, I think that's evil.
Yeah.
Right? And so at the end of the day, God takes vengeance however he pleases, right? And I think something happened, right, at that
For
festival,
sure.
Correct.
Exactly
right?
what I was
Yeah.
going
Right?
to bring
So,
up.
and I don't know, maybe it was coincidence, bro. Maybe it's just freaking karma. Maybe it's just nature. Maybe it was something. You know, we don't know that, because you know what? There are good people. I was in Guatemala years ago on a trip with these two other guys, and it was a rainy thing. It was rainy, and half the volcano broke off, dude. And I say about 10 miles wide of mud came. And you see it, dude. When you stand, it just flooded. So I was standing on like 20 feet of mud. It was already dry. And you see the peak of houses that were buried. People were underneath me, just buried, dude. And then what was cool is I had a picture of this. This is during the Blackberry days. It was a long time ago. It was a church, a steeple of a church with the cross, dude. It was like, I took a picture by it. And then there was another thing, right? Like there was like something that the mud split and the church got saved. It was a little church. So could have been coincidence, could have been God's will that says no, you know. But I think at that point we're splitting hairs. You know, good people die and bad people die.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just how our world is. The thing is that I just focus on myself and how I could bring value to other people and live a good life and have fun, rock it out, you know, enjoy life, and but share, you know, God's love, dude. And that's really what we're supposed to do. And God's love comes in many forms. It's not the religion bullshit, dude, because that is worse, dude. You know, because there's when you act upon religion, it just separates. It's like
It's man-made, right?
And yeah, it's not only man-made, but it just separates you, and it brings division, you know. And I've sat down with Muslims, dude, and I had Muslims take care of me, and you know, but there's also bad Muslims. There's also bad so-called Christians and whatever. You know, so it's just how you carry yourself, dude. At the end of the day, dude, if you're hearing God's voice, right? And you might ask, well, how do you hear God's voice? You know, pray, dude. Just pray, and you don't have to be, hey, God, if you're out there, I want to, you know, read the word, you know, like maybe Proverbs. Every person should read the book of Proverbs, dude, daily, dude. It's amazing the freaking information that's in there, dude. It's applicable. It was applicable 20,000 years ago when it was written, however long that was, is applicable today, dude. The wisdom, dude. You asked if there was a Solomon today. Yeah, there's a lot of wise people today, dude. Miracles happen, dude. It's no bullcrap, dude. I've seen it. I experienced it. I experienced the power of God, dude. I would pray for people sometimes, dude. They would not be able to stand, dude, because I feel the intensity, the energy coming out of me, dude. And they were like, just fall, dude. You know? And it's like, oh, Rick, this miracle. No, it's not me, dude. I'm just a freaking monkey out there, dude. And who used to party and snort cocaine, sleep around, and do stupid shit, dude, that hurt myself, you know? And so, and Proverbs talks about that. It says, don't give in to strong wine, to strong drink. You know, we're sipping. You know, a little concoction here, right?
Yeah.
But it's not saying don't do it. Don't give in to too much of it.
Yeah.
You know, it says, leave that stuff for the guy who's miserable and hurting and dying. And he's rolling back in the lost ship. Like, in other words, he has no hope. He lost all hope.
Yeah.
You know, and like in a lost ship, just rocking back and forth. Leave that stuff for that guy. He's gonna die. He has no hope, right? You know, don't give in. Be careful for the woman that walks at night. You know, and so you know why? Because she's gonna lead you into destruction. It's just you know, like watch out for the hose. You know, in other words, right? You know, you
hose cannot be saved.
Yeah, no, you know, but. You know, like everyone, dude. You know, everyone has I'm 52. I know I look like I'm 35, dude, but I learned so much, dude. My experience with God is real, and I got caught up too in the religion thing, and I thought it was only one way, but it's not. You know, and my experience has proved that, and so yeah, man. I got involved with missions and. I've been to all these countries, dude. I've held dying babies. I appreciate life more. One thing, I have friends that are very wealthy, and it's the same thing. You know, they're showing me their kitchen remodel. You know, they spend $100,000 on their kitchen cabinets and all this badass shit. But I've been with the poorest of the poor, dude. I'll say this. One time I was in Honduras. We were going up the mountain, and I was like, hey, we're bringing you some provisions, and these are houses made out of mud, dude. And you see the grass coming out of the walls, and it smells damp in there.
Yeah.
And there's like metal, corrugated metal things on top, and old boxes, and it's as big as this, and their bed is there, and their kitchen is right there, a stove made out of mud with a chimney coming out of it. And I remember this lady, she came out, and it's like, hey, we're here, I brought some missionaries here, we want to, this is up a mountain, dude, like going up, man. It's a ball buster, dude, we're getting up there. And it was fun, though. At the end of the day, it was fun. And we gave them, we used to buy bushels of rice, beans, and corn. And then we give them sugar, too. And then we give them rice, beans, because they make tortillas, out of the corn. And some sugar and eggs. And then she's like, oh, my God. She was an old lady, dude, like all raggedy, dude, barefooted. And it's like, oh, my God, let me straighten out. And I remember she brought, like, this freaking broom made out of straw, and she's sweeping, like, cleaning. And it was sweeping dirt, dude. She was sweeping dirt. Like, the floor is dirt. And she had, like, these old wooden crates. We sat down, and she offered us bread. And I remember she took out this clear bag. And it was crusty-ass bread, dude. It's like, here, I don't, And so that is God's love, dude. Because she didn't give out of her abundance, right? She gave out of the only thing she had. She was, here you go. See, they might not mean much to you guys, but to her, it was all she had. And she was able to share that. And I think that's the power, dude, of God's love, dude, of sharing. Because if you had $1 million and you gave me $100,000, that wouldn't even faze you, or $10,000, right? But if you had $10 and it's all you had, and you don't know when you're gonna get your next meal, but you say, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy my last $10 to go get something to eat, and that's where God's blessing, dude. That's where the power is at, dude. And so, and one of the things I learned from this lady is, and I have many stories like that, but is that the pride in her home is the same pride that a buddy of mine's wife had when she was showcasing her $100,000 kitchen. It's the same thing. It's the same shit, dude. So you might think that, well, why is God allow that lady in that hut? Well, she's happy. That's all she knows.
Yeah.
She feels comfortable. She's happy. She's a happy woman there. And I've come to learn that poverty, it's not a physical thing. It's a mind thing. Poverty begins in your mind, dude. It's a mindset.
Yeah, they say that you can be rich in wealth, but not rich in spirit, or
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And so, and I live my life like that, man. I've learned a lot from that. I've learned a lot from my past. But I just think that we all are born to do something in life. We all are, man. No one's just born to freaking work and that's it, dude. That's the biggest crock of shit, dude. There's something we all gotta do. You know the chances of you being born, dude, when your freaking dad slept with your mom and injected her sperm in there, dude? How many of those freaking things swam up and got fertilized? It was you, dude.
Yeah, with Michael Phelps, that shit. Boom.
And so, yeah, imagine that. You think that's by accident? Why am I here for, right?
Yeah, I know.
And so, yeah, dude. And so, like, you guys are born. Hey, maybe you start with this podcast, right? And maybe you start with that. An old lady told me this story, dude, and and I know we're gonna have. I'll be back, but I'll end it with this. And she is an old lady years ago. I must have been like 9 years old when this old lady told me this, and she's like, come here, I'm gonna tell you something. And I said, I don't want you to say nothing to no one, but I'm gonna tell you a story. And I said, okay, this freaking lady's crazy. What? She's like, and I remember she had glasses, and she was like this. There was a story. It was a long time ago. There was this single mom, and she was saying there was a single mom living in a third world country, and she had 5 kids, and she got pregnant by this guy that she fell in love with, an older guy, and this guy was just recently divorced and blah blah blah, but she was pregnant. She didn't want to have any more kids, so it was a time where the abortion wasn't prevalent. I'm saying that now, but she was telling me, and she didn't want to have the baby, so she went away. There was no way to, so she was trying to like lose the baby. She was trying, so she went with her mom to an area, a country area, a hillside, and she was staying at this cabin, and she rode a horse. She was trying to ride a horse so she could not have this baby because she didn't want no more kids, and she had just started a relationship with this man, and I was like, so, like, and it's like, but let me tell you something, that she couldn't lose the baby. And so one time she fell, and she was like 6 months pregnant. And I was little, I was like 9-10 years old when this lady was out. She was like 6 months pregnant, and she fell, and she was always saying she don't want the baby, and the baby, she was aborting the baby. The baby was coming out, and right away, they got a midwife. They had to go and get the midwife. It's like, holy cow, the baby's coming. And at that time, this lady was like yelling to God and saying, please, God, don't kill my baby, But the first 6 months, she was cursing the baby, man, And so the baby came out. And the midwife it came out, and it was like this big. And this old lady was like, it was this big, this baby. And then you could see inside, you could see the veins and the heart, the skin, and all that. They looked like a little white rat. Their eyes were not open, And the midwife is like, there was no tools. They got like alcohol to clean her up, and then they didn't know what to do with the baby. And the mom was crying. She thought like God was cursing her or anything, because at that moment she changed her mind about having the baby, not having it. And they grab she's like a shoe size box, a shoe box, size 6 women's, and they put cotton in there. They put cotton, and they put the baby in there, and the midwife goes, the lady told me in Spanish, que vaya con Dios, but a baby does not last the night, so they figure, okay, put the freaking lid in there and like a freaking dog, dude, and just buried it because it was in the countryside.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
So the baby didn't survive.
52 years later, dude, that baby's sitting right here in front of you guys, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm telling you that there's a purpose for each in your lives. If I would have died that day, hundreds of kids wouldn't have gotten fed. I wouldn't have been a father. I wouldn't have helped countless of young men. And so we all have something to live for, guys.
Yeah.
That no matter what, curse or people have told us, you ain't shit, you're not gonna amount to anything, you're Hispanic, you're Mexican, you're this, you're other, that's all bullshit, dude. You're here to live with a purpose, man. And there's no doubt, And yeah, dude, and that's my story. That what meant to be my box to be buried was my springboard in life, dude. And I'm 100% normal, dude. I kick ass in life. I don't make excuses. I just, if you tell me no, well, that's gonna freaking encourage me to freaking prove you wrong.
To find a way.
There's always a fucking way, dude.
You're a winner,
man. Dude. We all are winners because we're here. We're alive, dude. You beat out countless of sperm cells, dude, to get fertilized to you to be born, no matter what, dude. I don't care if you're the result of a one-night stand in backseat of a car, dude. You're here.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're the result of a rape victim, you know. You're here, dude. You know, to turn that shit around, dude, and leave your mark in life like you're freaking stamped. Like we all have, you know, our fingerprints, dude. You know, and we're all unique. And there's a reason why we're unique. You know, that's it, dude. And so, like, we all have different personalities. We all have, you know that human beings, dude, are the only ones, dude. We're the only ones that could, like, perceive things before they happen. Not animal. Animals know when there's shit's about to happen because of signs and everything, but we're the only ones, dude. And, like, dude, the world's our oyster, man. The world's our oyster. Like, we could do whatever the hell we want, dude. And it's our choice, right? God has given us choice to do whatever we want, dude. And so, you know, like, I just encourage everyone, dude, who's listening to this, dude, to go out there and get it, dude. It ain't easy, dude.
Yeah.
You know, you're fat, lose weight, eat right, go to the gym. You know, like, if you're in shape, dude, you're going to feel so much better. If you're depressed, dude, go get in shape, dude. Get a six-pack, dude. And you'll see how depressed you're going to be. It's bullshit, dude.
Yeah.
You know, depression. And I'm not saying I'm not a psychologist. I'm not saying, you know, anything. But I think they pass out, you know, antidepressant pills, dude, like candy, dude. Like, fucking get in shape. Work on your mind every day, dude.
Is that to desensitize you thing, like you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, dude, like everything. And I'm not against, you know, medicines or anything, but, you know, there are things that we have the power to fix it, dude. You know, I grew up in a home. I grew up in the schools, and they call me dumb. They call me stupid, dude. I went broke, you know, in the 2008 crash, and three years later, I was a millionaire again. You know, I made money, lost a lot of money, made money, lost a lot of money, dude. And it's just, you got to learn, man. You got to learn, and you got to stick to what you're good at, right? And if you want to do something, go out there and do it, dude. The biggest thing, the worst thing you could do, right, is to fucking die with regret and be in your deathbed, 90 years old, if you make it to 90. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Too late, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so now is the time, dude.
You make every moment count, from
Hell
what I
yeah.
can
At
see.
least I tried, dude. At least I tried, man. And I don't apologize for it. I don't ask permission for it. You know? So with that, gentlemen, cheers. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, Rick, thank you so
Live on,
much for
man.
joining us, man. It was a
Cheers,
blast.
bro. Cheers.
Getting to know you and meeting you.
Before we end this, though, I do want you to... Sorry, dude.
Yeah, you're good. And we definitely I want you to come back with Adam. That way we could get a good it'll be
I gotta
cool.
behave a little bit with Adam. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Hey, dude, I was going to have edibles for us, man.
Not me, dude. I keep my mind 100, dude.
Nah,
Yeah,
just
but
playing.
yeah, you're always welcome, man.
Thank you.
And yeah, no, it was
So,
fun.
once
Yeah.
again, your podcast, Chicago Real.
Yep, Chicago Real, Rick De La Fuente. You know, you can reach me at, you know, to my Instagram is rick.dlf1. You know, you just reach out there, and yeah, man.
And as far as your commercial roofing company,
Yeah, we're Illinois Roof Masters. We do strictly commercial roofs. Yeah, so we hit us up, IllinoisRoofMasters.com.
for sure. Check out the homie. Very inspirational. Awesome.
you.
Peace out,
Bloody
guys.
Rootz, Chicago Real. Peace out.
See ya.
That's good, huh?
That was great. Yeah, that was... Man, that story, man. That's for the masses.
Yeah.